The following program contains adult language, poor taste in jokes, racial slurs, political slurs, slants, and all sorts of things that if you are sensitive and have a delicate constitution, you should probably go watch Teletubbies. You were warned.
Hey kids, welcome back to Roto Talk.
Hey kids, welcome back. It's a beautiful Tuesday, crummy, cold December something morning. Ugh, it's awful out. So anyhow, back to the Super Sport build. So last time we left off on this thing, we were gluing the bottom sheets on, which those are epoxied on now. And I put my putty skunk stripe on there that I always do. So if you do have a little bit of gappage in your boards, I just put my body filler. This is not wood putty, this is a fiberglass style body filler. I put that over the boat, over the seams, put it over the nose a little bit, a lot of it, okay? And I do that, that's the preliminary coating. And then when I go to sand all the edges down, then we hit that as well. Then what we're going to do, and I cannot find my plane anywhere. I'm going to have to do it off camera. So let's pretend this is our plane. Plane meaning it's got a blade right here. You're going to be doing that number. Now, if you're going to be planing this instead of just sanding it, you can see you've got this edge, quite a bit of edge. Okay? Plane from the end in. Do not plane this way. The reason being, you'll break off that corner in most cases. There are some woodworking tricks to that. Can't remember what they are though. But even the woodworking guys that know what they're doing, they'll be like, "Oh yeah, always go away from that edge." Because anytime you have an open edge on a plane, you can catch it and splinter it. We can always put it up if need be. So, but either way, or sand it. You're going to be taking a lot more off the bow than you are the sides probably. A plane does make it faster, but you can just sand the whole thing down if you want to. Use some really tough grit. Use some 80-60 grit, whatever the case may be. And then we're going to take some snips or a Dremel tool or whatever you can to cut, to separate, if you can get them separated.
And they could never, ever tear us apart.
Separate the boat from the jig, and then we're going to flip this pig over and get this thing hopefully done this week. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll be right back. So what we did is I sanded everything down. I did a rough sand, okay? So I got the edges down, but I still have like epoxy on the sides. Nothing is shaped yet. The nose somewhat shaped. I don't get real anal with the preliminary sanding till I get the top on, because then you're just double dipping all the time. So I just knocked down the edges so it looks like a boat. We cut it off. And there we go, kids. That's my stand. Okay. So the next step we're going to do, two things, is we're going to laminate the inside. Okay, we're going to give this seam some reinforcement. I'm also going to reinforce the keel in the front. Not necessarily something you have to do, but it's something I do. Okay. Then we're going to laminate these. We're going to put in our throw rod. Okay. Might do that real quick. First off, let me grab a drill. Now, be sure when you're sanding that bottom side to keep these edges. Now, right now, again, they're not shaped. It's kind of still waving a little bit. Keep these edges nice and sharp. You do not want them rounded. This boat will slide like a dirt car.
Boom, 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 boom. How, 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 how.
If you round these edges, keep the back transom nice and straight, nice and sharp edges. Keep the center nice and sharp. So when you're sanding, only sand on that angle and that angle. That goes for about any boat you ever build, but especially a mono, okay? So with the dowel, the throw rod, I screwed up, as you guys saw. Let's see where my other tabby dude go. And I stuck both of these together. It's really not a big deal. Let me find, there it is. So what I do, normally what you would do is you'd slide the rod through here. You'd put one brace on here, slide it through, the other brace on the other side, so on and so forth. It doesn't matter, as long as you're still going to get good support, even if you screw up like I did. Okay, let's see which one's which. That's the back, that's the front. Okay, so you might remember, hang on a minute, from the Cracker Box build, that one of the things I do with these rods, they're a very, very tight fit. I kind of cheat a little bit. I put it in a drill, take some sandpaper, I rough it up a little bit. I don't rough it up, I actually taper it a little bit. Just helps it fit in there. You don't have to fight it as much. Okay. So that should, still a little bit grimy. How about this end? See how it fits in the boat. I got glue in there.
Great big gobs of greasy grinding gopher guts.
So you don't want it too loose. It defeats the purpose. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and drill this down just a little bit more. Be right back. So we're back. I just tapered that down a little bit more. So all we got to do now, slide it through here. And you can put these on either side. It's not really going to matter. In my case, I laminated them. But you're going to get, you can see the way they go relative to the bulkhead. There's a little bit of an angle in there. I'm not going to glue them in just yet. So, take this out. Slide it in there like that. And then, so it gives you a little bit of deck support too. Now I'm going to glue this in when I do the lamination. Just like that. And, oops, we'll slap a couple little clamps on there. Everything will be copacetic. Okay? No big deal. Alright, next thing we're going to do is we're going to laminate. So, they give you some fiber cloth, which you can see here. Alright? And we're just going to measure and cut. Now, I do suggest use a nice new razor blade when you cut this stuff. That's 8 inches on the devil there. So I'm going to take one of my handy dandy 3 printed squares, put on the 8-inch mark. It doesn't have to be totally perfect. I'm going to cut that with a new razor. Okay. We're going to blow that out. Hold your ears. Okay, lay that in. If you're a little bit over, it's quite alright. This one here is going to be 2 3/4. Okay. And again, if it's a little bit longer, it's okay. Too much support's not a bad thing. Alright. And this one we've got about 10. Not the space shuttle. And even if you don't do this step, you're probably okay. But depends on how hard you're going to be bashing. Okay. Then, what the instructions tell you to do is use finishing resin and go ahead and suit this all up. I'm going to use 30-minute epoxy because I don't use finishing resin. And whilst I do that, I'm going to, and you also want to reinforce this transom. I'll probably do that off video, but do the same principle. Take a little bit of fiberglass. Do as much or little as you want. And you either do the whole thing, however you want to do it, in the sides where the back goes, if you want to. Okay, So I'm going to do some fillet welding up here. Hang on a minute. So I'm going to take some 30-minute epoxy and mix it with micro balloons. Again, little dusty fiberglass. Scary stuff. Don't snort it. All right. So, and I'm going to do these real quick. So, we're going to try a new epoxy today, and I have used this before. This is a marine epoxy. I've used this stuff before. It's okay. It's not really any different than any other stuff. It's Brampton's. Whoever Brampton is, but it's there's certain ingredients, and they all have them. But I have used certain epoxies that I don't care for. Again, I'm not a big fan of Zap. It works good. It holds well. Don't get me wrong. I just don't like its properties. But I'm so used to Bob Smith Industries stuff that don't go by me. I'm just a creature of habit.
I have to think like an animal. Whenever possible, to look like one.
Okay. Cut the ends off. Alright. So, we're going to do the reinforcement. Oops. The reinforcement of that keel first. So I'm going to use a fair amount. Again, you don't have to be totally perfect down to the micron on this stuff. Ain't rocket science. So what I do with the powder, we're just going to do this. So once the viscosity seems pretty thick, which it is right now, but once this stuff gets potted up and gets warm, it's going to thin out, and I really don't want it to move. Another trick is when you mix this stuff, mix it over the powder container. That way the excess falls back in. And don't do it in a windy environment. This stuff blows like blow. Alright, so here, excuse me, got a head cold. Here we go. So we're just going to laminate. This is just I told you this in the build, when we were doing the build originally. I always reinforce the keel. I do this on this boat, and I've never had one of these break apart. Even I think the very first one I did, which was like my black one. I don't know if I did this or not, I don't remember. But I do this on all my crackers. I tend to beat the hell out of my cracker boxes, so you can't really have too much reinforcement there. So we're just reinforcing this keel. Now this is the longer epoxy. This is the 30-minute jazz. Try not to use a ton of excess, because you're just adding weight. If it's not in the seam, it's not doing you much good. You know, people think, oh, if I put 800 pounds of glue in here, or epoxy, it's gonna be stronger. No. It's where you put it, not how much. Okay. And I might even do some of the sides a little bit, like where it's just got extra, might as well use it. Okay. Now, where is this? All right. As for this, I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to use gloves, and we're going to thin it with denatured alcohol. Not the good kind.
What can I do for you, Jim?
I said, give me the brandy!
natured kind. So I'm going to put on my Chris and Lee gloves. Alright. Now we're going to thin the crap out of this stuff, and I'm going to grab a different brush. Be right back. Alright, so we're back. We're going to mix this up a little bit. I should have used a bigger cup. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to dump some of this out into a different cup. So I misjudged that. Happens. Because I want this to be reasonably runny. Now, I could use fiberglass, by the way. I have fiberglass in the shop. I'm just trying to avoid it. It's winter time. And I got the heat on, and fiberglass does not like to cure up. Doing this over the floor. Fiberglass doesn't like to cure up when it's cold. So you have to close all the doors and put the heat on, and that's not the safest thing in the world. I do it sometimes, but safer to do it this way. So I'm just mixing this over the floor so I don't get it all over the boat. Ooh, like that? That was a good save. That's why I wear gloves. Wow.
Nightmare.
Okay. Do the same thing with this one. Okay. A little bit in there. Okay. Gotta order some more popsicle sticks. Wow. Went through a lot of those suckers. Alright. Get that out. Change my glove. Alright. And then you're just going to laminate it. Work from the inside out. Whatever works best for you. I buy these brushes from Harbor Freight. They're called chip brushes. And they work really well for this. Now, try not to add a ton. Work it in really well. Okay. Because it might seem like you don't have enough, but you do. And then after this, we're going to reinforce the engine rails as well. Okay, we're going to high speed through this here.
Keep it company. And the real I like to teach the world. Sing to birthday harmony. And I'd like to buy the world a coat and keep it company. It's the real thing.
All right. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to reinforce the same way we did the keel. We're going to do the engine rails. Okay? Exact same principle. And I'm going to glue in the rail, or the throw rod. In the manual, it says to do this, I think, later in the game, but it really doesn't matter when you put that in. Just put it in. So I'm going to reinforce my throw rails, and I'm going to clamp these. I'm going to put glue here and here and here. Put a couple of clamps there just to hold everything steady. No big deal. And that's really about it for this one. So we might even do another one later today, sealing the boat. But other than that, yeah, pretty good. We're reinforced. Everything's copacetic. And I'll do the transom a little bit too. But again, it's the exact same principle as this. No sense in sitting through that. So, till next time, kids, which will be later today probably, keep dry side up. Bye.